If a couple other folks want to join and say something, it doesn't have to be census. Joe uplifted an amazing victory around evictions, but whatever you might want to express is okay too.
Yeah, this is Marla again. So just generally, I think, you know, with census ongoing and then also the resources that are out there that are affected by census, I echo a lot of the concern and the stress. And like Daniel and Allison and Nabila, you know, I think that it is important that we express the connection to census, not just to COVID, but to unemployment relief, medical services, and all those other things going on. And we can tie the issues that are going on right now to the issues that we already organize around with even more urgency. And I know, like, for me, for example, like I'm thinking also a lot about those people that are already hard to count and hard to get to when we are not in a pandemic. So what we've been thinking, or at least I've been thinking about a lot, and I'm thinking of organizing this within our own organization, is that we do a lot of like relational organizing, because like Daniel said, you know, a lot of people, they're trying to figure out, you know, what's going to happen, like they're freaking out. What am I going to lose my house? Am I going to lose my home, my apartment, all those things? How am I going to eat? It's, you know, through using our own base to talk to their connections and their family members, their friends, and all those people. They already have that relationship. And so it's just easier to get that message out and have a stronger response that way. And this could also go for anything else, not just census. So I just did want to push that out there, that relational organizing is a big thing and it does yield a lot of success. So, and if anybody has any experience on that and tips, I'm open to hearing them, but I did want to put that out there.
Hi, this is Tana with H-Town Power Vote Positive. I have one of the concerns that our communities are looking at is how do we make sure people that have immigration problems get counted and not be afraid to do the census.
Thank you.
Well, this is Elmer from Crescent. One of the things that we have been doing at Crescent, and I would recommend to do that, if you have any database with phone numbers, please call those people. They really appreciate your phone call, and you can use that interaction, first of all, just to say, you know, to say hello and ask questions about the coronavirus, and then you go to the main topic, which is the census. You ask if they received the mail invitation, if they complete it, if they have any questions. And to be honest, this we have been using this just this week. We reach out 160 people, and we asked them also permission to complete the place card. And you know, we had that database. We contacted them through phone, and that's an amazing way that we are using, and we will continue to use that.
Hey everyone, this is Terrence from East Harris County Empowerment Council. I don't know how true it is, but I got a text message from a friend that says that's encouraging people to fill out the census because that's where the stimulus check may be sent to. Did anybody else hear or receive that message?
Hi, this is Sui from PPSOS. Yeah, I agree that some organizations have difficulty in reaching out to people at this time. But as Alison just mentioned, that our PPSOS use mass texting and also Google Text, also Facebook text to text hundred of people. And when we communicate with them, we also remind them that if they don't fill out the census, so there will be a census staff who will come to their door and knock on their door. So they are really aware of that. That's why they response very good on our text. And we also have the toll-free line for many languages right now. For people who don't speak English. I think the way they respond to our text is good. Yeah, just want to share with you guys.
Hi, this is Andres from UWD. I just want to go back a little bit to the text message that you received. I couldn't hear your name. I'm sorry. I just got off a call, an internal call with UWD, and another staff member also got a text message that said that the funding that is going to come from those checks comes from the census data. So yes, I also heard that the same rumor going around. I don't know if it's true though.
It doesn't sound to be true, because the census data that is collected is going to be like compiled into a report till next year. I don't think it's like already available.
Yeah, I think they were talking about not this census but the census before. So based on the census the 10 years ago, that's where supposedly all this money that they're gonna give out as an aid is gonna come from.
This is Francis. I suggest Anna reach out to the Bureau so we can do that and then send out a message to everyone.
This is Elizabeth Stevens with Catholic Charities. And, going back just a moment to the concern about reaching the community that are the most difficult or the most difficult to convince, what I have found works for me is that when I do approach them, the first thing I talk about is the children. When you start talking to them about the benefits of their children and make them realize, your child is 2 years old, in 10 more years they'll be 12, and approach it from the standpoint of how this is going to benefit your children when they're older, I get a better response, because a lot of them, sure, it's important to have good roads, but when you start telling them you want to have good clinics, new schools, you want to have these things by the time your children are school age, they seem to be a lot more receptive and more eager to participate. Thank you.
Thanks so much, folks. I really appreciate everyone sharing. We're going to have some more space for conversation, and I know a lot of conversation about the census. I have seen in the chat folks asking about election work. Of course, Houston in Action is here to increase civic participation broadly. So we are thinking about that as well. And so there will be a call next Friday. We're thinking at the same time to talk about our voter engagement work and priorities for that. So I just wanted to uplift that for folks that are thinking about that. And just wanted to let you know too that, we're in the same boat as you, the Houston Action staff, and has spent a lot of time reaching out to as many of you as we could to understand where you are at in this moment, what your needs are. We're trying to bring folks together so that we can support collectively. We will be reaching out to some folks. There are some organizations that already have really great digital and virtual setups and are going to maybe also support us in a webinar on the 25th, where we hope to do a showcase of all the different types of digital work that can be done generally, but especially for the census, since we know Census Day is coming up. And so please be on the lookout for that as well. Again, as I mentioned earlier in the call, if you can register with us, then we can make sure that we get the information to you about future webinars and calls. And also just want you to know that, we know that this is hard. We were already facing an uphill battle with the census, and now we're all at home, hopefully safe. And so we did come together after talking to you all, talking to our steering committee, I just want you to know that our priority in this moment is really, the first one is we want to make sure everyone is healthy and informed and away from health risks. We have reached out to Harris County and City of Houston to see how we can support in our work. The fact that so many of you are on this call right now shows that we have been able to build together a large network of organizations that are so multifaceted and also grounded in the communities that we want to support. And so if there is information that we need to share from our elected officials at the local level, we want to support that. So we'll be following up with that once we get some more information with that. And then of course, the census, we have to motivate people. And like y'all say, the good thing is that we won't be stuck at home forever. And so we have to keep a long-term focus as well. And we know that the census is so important to us for the next decade. And so as everyone is already talking, I was really appreciating the suggestions about how we continue to motivate people in this moment. So it sounds like we are in alignment. And again, we also have the voter engagement work as well that we will be talking to folks about. So I'm now going to pass on to Anna, and thanks so much. It's really great to see all your names on the list.
Thank you, Frances, and thank you everyone for joining today's call. I'm Anna McNaught with Houston in Action. So I am going to share a couple of just a sense of where we're at with our census work in our communities and what we know about COVID-19. And so as a reminder, our focus again is to keep people healthy and informed. Some of the discussions that we've had is how do we shift this work forward, knowing that we have very limited interaction face-to-face with folks, but understanding that like many of you shared, we have the opportunity to continue to organize and to continue to meet with different people and interact with different people via other methods. So wanted to give you a sense of where we're at with census responses. As of March 18th, more than 11 million households have responded to the census. So this is a great opportunity to remind everyone, if you haven't responded to the census, please do so. It really takes no more than 7 to 10 minutes to respond for your whole household. And understanding that the Census Bureau is providing information daily. We definitely want to ensure that we have the most updated information for you all. So in support of guidance on what we can all do to slow the spread of the coronavirus, the Census Bureau suspended field operations for 2 weeks until April 1st. We also know that there are also changes to group quarters. So I know a participant, I'm sorry, I don't recall your name, a participant mentioned about college campuses. And so there are also changes to non-response follow-up operations happening right now. So one of our recommendations is definitely for you all to join the census.gov newsletter. They are constantly communicating with everyone that joins that newsletter. And also to join Houston in Action's newsletter, where we share with you updates and progress of the work. We'll share with you those details in a moment, but you can also go to our HoustonInAction.org website and stay connected. That's the prompt that will take you to be added to our newsletter. So I know that folks have been mentioning the census a lot and how we create a more comprehensive outreach strategy to ensure that everyone is counted in the region. But are there any other changes that folks want to mention here in this moment about how they're thinking about their census outreach? Thank you, Elmer, for sharing about your personal invitation to talk to the folks that are in your list and in your membership. Are there any other suggestions on how folks are moving forward to ensure a complete 2020 census count that would like to share?
I'd like to share, if y'all can hear me.
Yes. Is this
Awesome.
Danny?
Yes, this is Danny with Baker Ripley. So yes, I'd like to mention that next week we're going to start phone banking. We have upwards of 1,500 contacts. And so me and my fellow community engagement managers, we're going to do some phone banking and try to encourage people to get in touch with their neighbors and check on them. So of course, you know, our script would begin with a check-in question about COVID and how people are handling the pandemic, and encourage people to make this a community effort to, you know, each one help one another, and also, of course, encourage everybody to fill out the census. And like someone mentioned earlier, relate how the resources that are given through the census would help us now or will help us in the future. And we also want to do a competition on social media which would attach to the response rate, that we can see live response rates in each zip code. And since we have the community centers all over Houston, we want to do a competition between those different community centers and see if we can get these zip codes to respond and see if we can give some kind of incentive. Thanks.
Thank you, Danny. And what we've been talking about, or rather the plans that that you all are engaging in your communities, they've ranged from tabling, canvassing, hosting events, and of course other types of outreach that you had been conducting up until a week ago. And so I know that some of us in this call are also first responders. So you continue to do the critical work of delivering meals, of providing access to community health for our communities. And so thank you for your work. But we know that for the most part, all of the direct outreach that we've been engaging in has been postponed. And so that said, all the other work we've done to get out the message about the census is very relevant in this moment. And it definitely brings new possibilities on how we use our network to uplift also education efforts around COVID. I'm very aware that to talk about census without talking about COVID, or the other way around, it doesn't make sense for the moment that we're in right now. So we'll definitely talk about some solutions that we've been working on here at Houston in Action. But I'd like to ask if there are other big concerns for the census work right now, and what folks are hearing or seeing for what's to come about a challenging complete count. So I'd like to open that up for discussion. But if also you have any questions or comments about how you're engaging your work, please do share.
Hi, Anna.
Hi, Hunja.
Our focus group is undercounted community, right? At this moment, because of coronavirus, we are most affected because many people do not have internet access. Mm-hmm. So we cannot go to library. So we cannot get help from our community organizers. So I do not worry about college educated Korean seniors, okay? But I think they will figure it out. They can fill out the census. The most vulnerable people who are seniors who cannot go to my2020census.gov by themselves, right? Those people need help from us, but we cannot reach them at this point. Just we have to wait until this coronavirus become less risky. So that is our biggest concern. Eventually they will get paper form, but pressure is building, right? We plus census, but they cannot do anything. Then it can be very devastating for them. They cannot get help anything from this time. That's my concern.
Thank you, Hunja. Thank you for sharing. I know that our senior population is definitely one that we are very aware not only of the limited access or ability to get online, but also of them being vulnerable to definitely some scams, right, about census information. I know that we have multiple groups here that do work specifically with seniors. So I appreciate you saying that, Hunja. Is there anyone else that'd like to share?
Yeah, this is Marcus Sykes again with the mantra. So as you know, we actually launched our critical campaign as well as the census engagement form online prior to COVID actually. We were already trying to do some of the digital networking inside the census space. And while we've had replies from numbers of people, what we've realized is that numbers of people who engage stuff on social media, like on a, people made aware of things for social media, and then people actually engage, click on the link, go through some of the extra efforts is a lot less than the numbers. See that thing. So what we're working on now, and what we encourage everyone to think about when they do whatever this looks like in this space, it's got to be more engaging than putting out something on social media. That's what we're finding. We actually thought, one, specifically because we were talking to the LGBT community, if it was going to be on social media and it had something that could stop people to do that. But we're not getting that response at the same rate that we expected. So whatever that is, we're actually working on trying to do interviews with community members and then have them talk about the impact of the census with us, so that whoever watches that interview would be just as invested in the census piece as the rest of that conversation led. What we're seeing is just we're not seeing that direct response come in as we thought. Another thing we're doing in that space is contact members of other organizations inside the LGBT that aren't necessarily in our work, but do relate to other LGBT individuals and directly ask those people to let us know if they've responded. So that's things we're thinking about as well. A number of our population, we mentioned this a little bit, they're either housing insecure. So what does this moment look like for them? There would be a time when there would be people on ground to go to those places and maybe do some enumeration in that way, but we know that's not happening. And honestly, right now, we don't know what some of those people are going for assistance or anything in that, right? So that's another thing we're thinking about now. How do we do outreach in that community? How do we also make sure that they're okay right now? Because that's another very big part of what's going on. There's too much people in that community who don't have a place to go, can't escape being with the rest of the housing insecure population that they're around. Like, what does it mean for them that they're on quarantine, right? So we're thinking through that and trying to figure out what the response is for that. We've dropped down to 24% operations here, so I'm still at the office and about some key staff are, but the rest of everybody else is at home and trying to figure out how we do it.
Thank you, Marcus, and thank you for the important work that you're doing. We know that a lot of the times, when I'm thinking about the privilege that I have to work from home, and so we know that a lot of folks don't have a home. A lot of folks are dealing with health issues, and so there's a lot of intersection to our work, and it's very important that you are uplifting this, because we definitely want to provide a list of resources, but we all know that you are the experts in your community, so we're definitely calling on you to share with us what are some of the resources that we can highlight from the work that you are all doing with the different communities that you work with and serve. Thank you, Marcus.
Yeah, actually, I'm wondering if I could ask Marcus, since you've already got some experience here, did y'all have any how's the response been to your tone? Have you had anything that was informative? I'm thinking in particular like humor, right? In this moment, do people need humor and levity, or will that fall flat? Does that feel insensitive?
So I'll be honest, on ours, we have not done any of the levity since, when this became something that was in the last couple of days, where it's become, hey, there's actually a lockdown this week, there's not been any levity in our communications. Our communications have been, here's the resources that you need, here are the operations that are still going on here at the Mantra Center, and here's the best way we can get you access to things. Now, about 2 weeks ago, we had a flyer that we created about health and safety for individuals in the thing, and it was a lot lighter than the tone we're using right now, right? That was like, hey, wash your hand, this is important stuff for you to do, take care of these, keep yourself social distancing, but still be fabulous from 6 feet away. We had some stuff like that then. We're not doing that right now. In this moment, the focuses on the awareness, the health concerns. And we're also thinking that if this lockdown quarantine moment continues for longer than 3 weeks, then maybe in 2 weeks, that would be a time to start to reinsert levity. And we're creating some of those pieces so that we can make it lighter, like have some conversations. I don't know if you saw this at RuPaul actually, or the Drag Race team. They did a whole names of the quarantine season. That was actually it was quite funny, and was shared on Facebook very quickly. But that's also RuPaul's Drag Race, and it was before this was really something that people were concerned about. So I think you have to be really careful right now, because you could just as much, we haven't done any levy because we don't want to cause extra stresses to the people who have some anxiety right now, or don't know exactly where this is going, right? So we throw levity at them, and that's not, we don't want to turn them off. We're not crossing that sword right now.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for sharing that.
No, this is Joe Higgs with TMO Gulf Coast Leadership. Just one quick comment and a question, really. The first one is, we work a lot with congregations. So one of the things we're working on is developing information for people who aren't terribly tech savvy about how they can use Zoom and lots of other applications to stay in contact, and really encouraging the congregations to create places where different groups of people can stay in contact, and believing that isolation really is the enemy in this. But a lot of people aren't real savvy on these things, myself included. So we're trying to develop, some guides on how to do that, simply for people who don't do it every day. And I think that's a useful thing, is teaching people how to stay in contact with each other. The second thing is we are primarily being congregation-based. We're trying to get congregations to contact people about the census. So that's our first strategy. But the question is, there's not very many places that people are going today that if we wanted to tell them about the census, but there are a few places. For instance, people are still going and will probably still continue to go to grocery stores. They're also going in pretty big numbers to go pick up food at schools or at food bank distribution points. I was talking with somebody from United Way earlier today to see if we couldn't get permission to provide flyers, simple, short, this is how you fill out the census flyers that could be put in each packet of food. I don't know if you've already talked with people about that, but it seems to me that's where people are, is looking for survival, and maybe we could get them information about the census as they go through those lines.
Yes, thank you so much, Joe. We've definitely been in contact with the Houston Food Bank and a couple of ISDs to ensure that there's flyer distribution at those different locations. But we also want to acknowledge that other folks are doing that as well. So if there's a need for collateral that needs to be uplifted, let us know. We'll be happy to support you all in that need. Thank you, Joe.
I do think, though, I don't know if there's been an outreach to the grocery stores, though, and that might be an opportunity for us to coordinate and to figure out how we connect. I know that the county and city officials are in touch with the grocers, so I do think that is a new thing that we had not thought through. But I also want to uplift for folks to remember that there still are materials, and so we can support with that. And the other thing is that you were mentioning, Joe, is trainings. We really want folks to lean on each other. Our team was just talking about this this morning, knowing that a lot of our partners are not tech savvy, and so that was the thing that we talked about, which was, we're going to reach out to everyone first and see who the experts might be. So I would ask, maybe it's actually a question that folks could answer in the chat. If you have any PowerPoints or presentations or anything already on Zoom, on phone banking, on social media, newsletters, mail campaigns, SMS, any of that, please just, if you want to send a chat, and also you could reach out to us as well, because we don't want to reinvent the wheel, and we would love to co-sponsor any events, any partner on this call that is thinking about doing a training of anything having to do with digital strategies, please reach out to us.
So I'll just add, I'm going to put in the chat that there is if you have a best practice document or something you want to share, there's a document where you can comment and share that link with us. I will add that to the chat right now. That's what Francis just mentioned. And if you have a training that you want to add to our calendar, then you should add that here.
So that information is being shared around in the chat. And yes, Joe, I am also not very tech savvy with a lot of these new technologies, including Zoom. So I think we're also learning together. But thank you, Francis, for highlighting that. If anyone on this call has resources or best practices, we really like to get that information out there for everyone to be able to understand how to use and access these systems. So we'll definitely reach out to you if you still need collateral. I know that there are some questions around the collateral that is available through the city and the county messaging campaign. There's flyers, there's door hangers. So if anyone is still interested in those, you can just put that information in the chat, and we'll be reaching out to you to follow up with you on where to pick them up and what's available. Anything else that folks want to discuss before we move to the next part?
Just had a comment. This is Daniel with Avenue. So now that we had to become YouTubers, basically, is there suggestions about video editing software that for free or cheap that we can use to make cool videos?
Hey, can y'all hear me? This is Anna Sidlaya with the Women's Fund.
Hi, Anna.
Hey, so I tuned into a Zoom meeting by, I forget who. I put my email if y'all want to email me, but basically the title is how to run an online event and engage more people virtually. They had very good tips about what platforms to use, what kind of problems you might experience, etc. So I know that they said they were going to send an email with that Zoom meeting so people can look at it later if they weren't able to tune in live. So if you guys want to email me, I can forward that to you. I haven't received it yet, but I think I will soon. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. I'll just also add that we have in that list that I shared of collection of best practices and resources, there's a whole section on facilitating calls, both on video and on conference lines, as well as best practices for moving organizing onto digital and online. So please check out that link, the collection of best practices. You can also find it on our partner and member page too. There's a lot of resources there. What we don't have though, Daniel, is the video creation piece. However, Myra shared here Canva. I will make sure to get that section added to this resources doc as well, so that we can be sharing. And if you have your own ideas, please go to the resource doc and you can comment in there with links to your favorite editing app.
Yeah, so we can all become shining stars in the web.
Thank you, Daniel. And so I do want to let folks know that we're in constant communication with the Census Bureau, and they actually just reached out to us stating that what you've heard about stimulus packages being tied to census information is not correct. And so folks, if you have any questions or comments or concerns, I know some people have been sharing that link to 2020census.gov. And so I'm going to ask Thea to share the link right now about census responses not tied to potential stimulus packages. We're definitely going to be relying more and more as the information progresses. So again, we'll share that link with you, but I also ask that if you have not signed up to receive their newsletter or our newsletter, you do so. Thank you everyone for sharing. I want to pass on the mic to Chris as he'll be walking us through our resources.
Hey, everybody. Thank you, Anna. Thank you for all the conversation. It's been so helpful. Yeah, y'all, yeah, thank you. So prior to this call, as Francis mentioned and Anna both mentioned, there is, there have been a lot of conversations already with partners and with members to figure out, like, how do we shift, how do we redirect when it comes to outreach and census. And the team worked really hard earlier this week and the end of last week to pull together that plan to shift our efforts and to figure out what that looks like and how we support this broad network of people and relationships and connections that we've made throughout this process to be able to better do that and shift in this moment. The presentation can be found at houstonaction.org/partners. It's a pretty high level overview, but the first part that you'll see if you look at that presentation would be that we really tried to ground ourselves in a few things when it came to the census, in particular when thinking about this reshift. And Francis mentioned these earlier, but being able to keep people healthy and informed and away from health risks, and also, thinking creatively and in response to the community need in a way in order to support coronavirus, COVID education and volunteer efforts, as well as continuing to motivate people to complete the census along the way. And so we went ahead and updated our partner and member page. If you go to our website, you'll notice that there's a stripe along the top, and in that stripe over on the right is a link to members/partners, and that's where you can find a lot of different information. I'll come back to that in a minute. But speaking of these shifts in tactics, we after talking to outreach partners and to members and the different teams that we work with, came up with basically a list of tactics. Some of them were already in existence that we were already working on, and some of them are new, and some of them are things that y'all are already doing. And so we as Houston in Action want to make sure that we help support you in whatever way that looks for you. And so social media is something that the Yes campaign is obviously making sure to be supportive of. We're working with that campaign, but in addition, we're also creating content of our own. If you got the newsletter most recently, yesterday, you'll notice there's a section called Fresh Content. That's all content that's not necessarily Houston in Action branded. It's what we call white labeled, meaning you can put your logo on it, you can use it as your own, download it, do whatever you like with it. There were a few videos in there, one that has the statement, there's no citizenship question on the census in about 6 different languages, I believe, and it just loops. There are some others that talk about the key important dates. We're going to continue to put out new content for you all. So if you're not subscribed to the newsletter, please head over to the website and sign up so that you can receive fresh content, or you can go to this other link, houstonaction.org/content, where we might be sending more regular emails there. In addition, we know that many of you have your own lists. Our hope is to be able to support people to use their existing email lists by providing an email calendar and form emails that you can draw from with messaging that you can tweak for your audiences, but at least give you a start and kind of take off some of the burden of trying to sit down and write an email. Sometimes that's a little bit more difficult than it sounds. And so we want to be able to provide you with those things on a regular basis through our campaign to help you communicate with folks. And we'll do so in a way that's mindful of the moment that we're in, and the other things that people are dealing with at the same time. Also, we began conversations last week about the rollout of a digital advertising campaign. We are hoping to have one regional coordinated campaign where that content that I mentioned earlier is provided for that campaign, We're even able to manage the placement of the ads and the targeting. And this is going beyond just boosting. This is including running ads in the other parts of Facebook that accept ads, and also Instagram and through the Google remarketing network. So that when we know someone has expressed interest in completing the census and they go and are on another website, they might also be served an ad about the census. Additionally, we are working with a handful of our outreach partners now to figure out the best way to support them to launch text and SMS campaigns. Our goal is to be able to extend that to everyone in our network. We'll see as time progresses how what capacity we have to do that. But that is an offering we would like to be able to make as broadly as possible. And the same goes for phone banking. We have a system now that we are working with our canvassing team to implement phone banking. We've been doing this now for the past number of days this week. And we'd also like to be able to support people in phone banking efforts if they're interested and able. Also, we know that the census is going to call on us to do a lot more online. And that might look like meetings like this or events like this. I've seen some creative Zoom events lately. I'm participating in a reading of a play on Saturday, which is, creative ways that people are using online tools. And I think we'll see more of these emerge. Houston in Action is able to loan out our Zoom account on a first come, first served basis. Our calls can operate for up to 500 people. And so I know not everyone's account has that. So quarantine karaoke, I am here for that. You let me know. We've also got a process down for that. If you're interested or need to be able to borrow our Zoom account for a major call, we can help support you in that way. But then also we want to think creatively about the other ways that people might be doing online events as it relates to census work and be able to support you there as well. In addition, we're evaluating what options we might be able to have to support people also in direct mail campaigns. So that may mean that you already have a mail out going out and augmenting it to include a census related message, or it may mean that you want to start something from scratch. We want to be able to have those conversations with people and support as we're able. And then finally, with volunteers, if you are not already familiar with the work that Volunteer Houston is doing, either to facilitate the need of organizations to have volunteers or to connect the general public with volunteer opportunities, I do highly suggest you go to volunteerhouston.org and help spread the word as that evolves. There are virtual volunteer opportunities, and they're a member, and we'd like to support them. And we know that each of your organizations have different needs, and some of them may include volunteers. So I've shared a lot, and so our hope is that now, after kind of sharing some of these tactics that we'd like to be able to support people in, that we can ask folks on this call, if you are interested in any of these tactics and are interested in the Houston in Action support to implement some of these tactics, or to support you in work that you're already doing, you can head over to the member partner page. On the presentation, I'm just going to show a snapshot of the part that's relevant for this conversation, which is the COVID-19 response and resources section of our partner page. Obviously, we had the registration information for this call. Below that, you can find the notes from this call and the presentation, and we'll link the video once that's complete. We will also be able to, we're also going to provide some messaging guidance for our members and partners as well, to the extent that we're able. And then you can see the plan that I mentioned here on this link. And then the collection of best practices and resources for COVID-19 is a living document. As we find new resources or hear about them, we will add them, just like we heard the interest in tips for editing online videos. We'll continue to grow that. There's everything there from information for workers to information for coping or organizing digitally. And then finally, the last two pieces here are surveys or questionnaires. The first one, many of you might have received already, the Census 2020 COVID Collective Strategies. The second one is new and is the one that I'm asking for folks to be able to fill out now or as soon as possible. That basically lets us know how you feel about these tactics, what kind of support you might need, what resources you might already have. You might already have a list. You might already have capabilities to do emails, but not phone banking, and you need support there. We want to know those things. So please do follow the link. I think the hyperlink didn't come through on that one, so you might have to link that one separately. Yeah, so we'll add a link there shortly. Actually, Adrian, your resource list is referenced in our resource list, so we're cross-referencing resource lists, so you can find it there as well. I will stop there for a moment just to see if there are any questions so far on what's been shared, and also share this link here to the to let us know about the resources that you're interested in.
It would also be great if we could do like a quick temperature check, either through chat or like on the video, if you want to do like a thumbs up if like we're going down the right path, or if you can be a resource in supporting everyone in their training and onboarding of this work. But is this like what y'all need?
Feel a little overwhelmed, but also this is also to have this many resources. So it's a little bit about processing.
Okay, thanks.
This is Vanita, and I want to say the resources, I saw your newsletter come out, was it yesterday or day before yesterday? It was great. It's really informative. There was a lot there with the event calendar, signing up for Zoom. So I've had a couple days to process, I guess, but I think it's great and definitely will be used.
Great.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I've linked the form now too. So if you have time and can share with us or are interested in sharing with us, the form is there in the chat now. We'll also include it in the follow-up message out to those who've registered for the call.
I actually shared it with my whole staff, and who includes organizing and stuff, and there, because we're doing some of the same things, so you guys really helped us along, so from an organizational and an individual perspective, so thank you all.
Awesome.
Also, at the end, I don't know if everyone knows, but you can download the chat too, so you want, I download the chat, it helps me.
Thank you for that tip, Danielle.
I don't know how to do that. Oh, that's so lovely.
Cool. Yeah, it looks like the three little dots on the right near the type message here give you the chance to save the chat. Cool. But yeah, back to Francis's question though. You know, what are you experiencing as you kind of make these shifts? And you know, what are we? You know, are we headed down the right path? Are these the right things? And I know there's a question in the chat about funding for digital outreach and the texting campaigns, for instance, using Through Text or Hustle, and how those are funded. I don't know if Francis, if you want to address that question.
Yeah, we don't, I mean, at this point, we have the existing funding that we had. I know that there is, for digital advertising, a group that Chris is engaging to coordinate digital advertising based on existing funding. Honestly, I think right now we've been trying to make sure that the funds that we've been able to move and the resources we have are able to get to where they need to go. But if you want to follow up with us, we're happy to talk and try to get back to you as soon as we can. But yeah, I think our first phase in this moment is, and again, I think the resources that Chris has mentioned, like filling out the surveys, we actually do look at all of that. So please do fill in the survey with your needs, both in terms of training as well as any other needs that are out there. And we will be looking at all of that and reaching out to you. I think the thing, again, that I would really love to know as well is those of you that already had really great digital strategies, how you might be able to share with us or support. I know that there are other webinars happening, and so we really want to make sure that we can also coordinate. We don't want to have to develop something that is already happening. We want to just push it out to people as it's done. But at the same time, want to make sure that y'all get what you need. So as I mentioned earlier, on the 25th, we are working with some of our partners to develop an overview of different digital strategies. And then we are thinking about after that, you know, what recording trainings looks like, and very clear instructions and information about how to use different tools. And then again, on the 27th, we're going to be talking about this work as well in our voter engagement context.
Thank you, Francis. And we've also just linked the registration page to that training on the 25th, which will be a high-level overview of each of these tactics. And hopefully then we'll be able to share more information about what that can look like for different folks who are interested. We'll be reaching out to the people who complete the survey that we've been sharing, the form that we've been sharing, to make sure that you're also invited via email. So are there other tactics that we haven't considered here that aren't in this list that should be? I know that different people have had different ideas come up on the call, and I think we're interested in hearing for the, you know, what aren't we thinking about? What do we still need to address? Is this helpful, or is this I heard it's a lot to process too. So yeah, how are folks feeling?
Also, I'd love to hear just generally if you all feel like we're communicating effectively enough, and also, you know, you got to this call, so that's great. But if you have other needs, we're happy to try to improve. Also, want to just remind you that we, I know the other day Layla sent a message on Facebook, on Basecamp, the folks saying that she wanted to do a training. That was really helpful for us because that was something we were thinking about. And so now we know that Avenue is thinking about a training, and hopefully we could work together or uplift the training that they're going to do. So also just putting things out to each other is completely fine, and we hope you do this as much as possible.
Hi, this is Maria with Avenue. I think it's great. This is really helpful. It's nice to see people. I've seen dogs for like 4 days now. So it's nice to see everybody. I have a couple of thoughts really quickly. One was on the levity side of things. I've been going back and forth between sometimes I'll think some things are funny, and sometimes I'll realize like the reality of things, and then I'll take everything really badly. And so I never know what mood I'm going to be in, which I think goes with what you were saying. I can't remember your name, but I'm pointing at you on my screen. About, yes, Marcus, about really, it's just, we just don't know how people are going to take things. Husband works very closely with people in Bergamo, for example, and like people are dying there, and like his boss's grandmother died, and like that reality hits me, and then I'm in a bad mood and I don't want to see anything funny. Or I realize that they're closing borders and my parents are on the other side and I'm anxious because I want to see them, right? And so it's hard to gauge how people are going to take things because I never know how I'm going to take things. So I think with what Marcus was saying, I think we just have to keep it kind of bland for now, while we figure out where people are at and while we get through some of the uncertainty of all of this. There's so much information and it's still so uncertain. And I don't know if anything I said made sense, but I am grateful for this and for everybody coming together, for sharing what we're going through and tools and experiences. Our team is working hard to do a lot of digital work. We're all learning how to do YouTube, like Danny was saying, and Instagram and Twitter. And so we're gonna do all the engagement we can virtually, and we're happy to share with you guys and learn from you guys and work together to continue to do the good work that everybody was doing.
I want to make one comment, and Maria, I think you're dead on. One of the things we're finding, because our membership is of folks living with HIV nationally, is, and we're in the middle of all kind of stuff that's had to stop, but we're having to learn that we need to engage people to just let them vent or support, or like we had a Zoom call the other night called Just Kicking It, and everybody say your name, do you got something to drink or smoke, whatever, we didn't care. And, and let people just vent versus we always, how do you balance the need to continue to organize or give information and move things forward with recognizing that people may just need a space and some levity. Now we're considering maybe we'll let somebody hold a Zoom that do crafts half of it, and then we do a portion on, doing some, some little education work. But how to balance that is a challenge with what people are going through and still trying to move them to somewhere. Gin and tonic, go ahead. All right, so, but that's the challenge. We want to still work and move, but not only do we need to take care of ourselves, but we also need to think about the people we're dealing with, and what's the balance of trying to continue to work when we need to be stopping us to support.
Hey, this is Adrian. I just got to add, I joined in late, so hi everybody who I haven't heard from yet, but I just got to say, Chris and I, and maybe some others of y'all, are participating tomorrow in a virtual production of The Big Lebowski, which is happening on video format just like this, and I'm super excited about it. I'm playing Jesus Quintana, that creep can roll, and so that's pretty cool, and I'm looking forward to it, and maybe we'll do it again sometime. So and I was actually suggesting to another colleague of mine that we do a virtual recital, like music recital. I said I would offer both piano and ukulele pieces if we would organize a virtual music recital. So thinking about that one too. So there are ways, right, to stay connected, creative ways.
This is Marcus Hooks again, and I want to say this because I think it's very important that we do a lot of this, but I think it would be wonderful if, I think something we need to consider is how do we produce this in a unified way? Why do I say that? Because now, in this conversation alone, I've heard of at least 6 different theatrical events now. Mm-hmm. That means that all the content that's being put out is probably being placed on top of each other on social in some way or another, right? So if you're looking at how do we mass effect, how do we pull people into something, but there has to be some balance between everyone and their mother putting out content and they're live on their own social media page and there's people watching them, and some kind of coordinated effort to do something. And I think HiA, we're in a great place to do that, but maybe it starts at, instead of looking at each one of us producing our own individual stuff, having it something that we all are participating in, and then masses the effort of people watching or participating in that one thing together. I just think that's something to think about. I thought about it here. Like if we start saying we're going to produce little mini skits, what's there to say that anybody's going to watch a mini skit from us? So there's 75 other mini skits and Broadway people who are producing mini skits. Oh, and actors and TV, and there's a lot going on right now, and everybody wants to be the social engagement space, but there's a potential that we can all step on each other's toes in that space.
So if everybody adds their events to the Houston in Action calendar, then we'll know exactly who is doing what and when. And there's the answer.
Is the Big Lebowski one shared there?
Sorry? Oh no, it's not. Yeah, that's just like a organized thing that like one of our mutual friends did. So it's not like through an organization or anything. Just some friends.
So I just want to make sure though, I thought I heard Marcus also saying like maybe there's an opportunity to do something together. So like if you're thinking about, so yes, like to Chris's point, like if you have an event, please share it on the website. If we are pushing out content, so we would love for you to use it and to add to it, that you don't have to worry about, becoming a graphic designer if you're not. But I think the idea around events, I actually hadn't thought about that. Like we assume that folks will be doing stuff together. I mean, individually, which I think has to happen because you all work sometimes in distinct communities that need to be reached. But there could be something around a coming together for, I don't know, online events or something like that. So I appreciate, I think that's what you're saying as well, Marcus. I just want to make sure that wasn't lost.
Yes, no, and the reason I said that is not that I don't think everybody producing individual content is great, but I'm just saying that there's so much individual content now. We were already facing the fact that there's everything going on social media, but now people who can't, like I have a friend in DC, they've started, like her and her friends' children are doing like read-alongs and sing-alongs together and the thing. There's so much of that if you're trying to like, how do people find out what's going on or see it or get access to it or know it? If it was coordinated though, in a way that we do through HiA together, that might help mass people into something and really get the reach out. So I definitely think there's a space there for us to maybe do some interactive engagement pieces as HiA centric, and then everybody says, hey, these are our people, get into this social thing we're doing on the HiA, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? Something like that. I think it's something to consider because there's just so much right now.
Yeah, thank you. We'll reach out to folks and see who might be interested in being a part of that.
Yeah, that's great.
Francis, I have more. Can I ask one other question? Is there a good list of contact information for all the people either on this call or that are HiA affiliated? And what's the protocol about reaching out to them and inviting them if they want to participate in something?
So the call today is a mix of people. I think we actually have from different our different connections, and so I think there will be a list. I don't know. We can look at how we can share that based on who registered. Again, I think if you registered, that's something we'll be able to pull up. In terms of connecting to people, we do have our census work. I think the place where you have the most people that have come together is through the CCC community-based subcommittee, I think, Anna, right? And Basecamp. And so for those of you that are actually part of our network regularly and you are involved in census, you should have access to that. If you don't, you can let us know. Within that, there should be as well lists, contact lists, as well as just people's email addresses. You can also just send a message to everyone or to individuals, but we can make sure that our lists are up to date and share those with you all as well. So if you want to, all of the Basecamp groups that you're a part of, there's usually a list from all the meetings as well of who attended any meeting. There would be a list from those with contact information. But we can look at it and see if there's, again, there's sometimes cross-pollination. Some people are involved in different parts of our work, and we're actually kind of trying to figure out what is the space. Is there a new space potentially for a bigger group? I think that's a question also that we have, because we're trying to balance wanting to make sure people are informed. We also hear from people, and we've heard for a long time, that they get overwhelmed. And so what that balance should be, I think, is something we want to hear from our membership. And so would love, again, that's kind of the question about how are we communicating? Is it working? Do you need more? Do you need less? That kind of stuff is the question that we have.
Well, thank you. That's very helpful. Let me just say that we're very involved in trying to, push elected officials and shape policies that affect many of the people who are hard to count in the census. And, we're going to continue to work on the census, but we're also interested if anybody else wants to help push public opinion to make sure we have things like eviction moratorium, or how quickly we get, disaster food stamps up and running or disaster unemployment up and running. If there's a part in this ecosystem for people who want to be more directly involved in, pushing on elected officials, we'd love to be part of that and help people get informed, because I know that's not what every group does day to day. The TMO side of what we do does that every day. So if anybody wants to be part of that, we'd love to hear from you and love to work with you on strategies to get elected officials of all stripes, local, state, and federal, to be responsive to the needs of the families that are, going into crisis as their paychecks run out.
Thank you, Joe. I mean, that's very helpful. Like I said, I think that you can always inform people about your work, and as individual organizations, they can always join whatever is of interest to them. As Houston in Action, we are looking at the systemic barriers to election work. And as I mentioned, that would be a conversation next Friday. I think we're thinking around 3 o'clock. We're just finalizing that still. But and so just in terms of like as Houston in Action, everybody, there are processes for how we decide which initiatives we focus on, but sharing information is always available to you and welcomed.
Cool, thank you. So we're just getting to closing here, and I think we just have a couple of recap really. If you're not already, like, a lot of this communication amongst our members and partners, of course, is stuff we receive and then we'll put out on our social media as well. So continue to send your things to us so that we are aware of them. The calendar is a great place to start, because once we get something in on the calendar, it enters into our channel to be considered for social media and for a newsletter. So that's another way to get your events and other pieces out. If you're not signed up for the newsletter, please sign up for the newsletter using this link, or just going to the big blue button at the top of our website. All of the resources that we talked about today, all the links, all the different things that have come from us so far, not everything in the chat, because we need to process some of that stuff, can be found one way or another by going to the information at houstoninaction.org/partners. So that's your one-stop shop for accessing most of the information that's kind of internal conversation for partners and members. I think I already mentioned we're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And that's also a place where you can find our various fresh content as well if you don't receive the newsletter already. Of course, too, I don't think we've talked about it too much, but many of our members and partners are also connected via Basecamp. If you are looking to be added to our Basecamp for the different buckets of work that happen there, whether it be our work through the CCC, the Complete Count Committee, or one of the subcommittees, or it be any of the variety of programs or campaigns that we have, please reach out to Mario at houstoninaction.org to see where you might fit in on Basecamp, and you can get invited to the regular calls. I will add that here. Yeah, and so we have also we've just got a quick survey for those that have been able to participate. Thank you very much for your participation. We have, or Thea, thank you for adding that to the chat. If you can take 1 minute to complete the survey, that would be really helpful for us. We always want to know how we're doing and how we're doing in coordinating conversations like this, advancing all of our collective goals. We really thank you for being here and for your time. We look forward to following up with you via email for those who registered or who received a calendar invite. Thank you all so much. Please stay safe, and we can't wait to see your faces again virtually. All right.
Yay. Thank y'all.
Chris, it says the survey is unavailable.
Yes.
Uh-oh.
Okay, well, we'll try to send it to you.
Yeah, it comes out with a cute little rabbit that says that it's unavailable.
Don't talk to the rabbit.
And Gracie, I know that you want to do online karaoke, so I'll tell Chris to follow up with you.
Yes, I'll be waiting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Gracie and I are gonna do a duet.
Yes, we gotta start practicing.
Even though I can't sing.
Yeah, you can. All right, bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
We'll send the updated survey link in the email.
Bye, y'all.
Thanks so much.
Danny, hey, I sent you an email.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes,
later.
sir. Okay. Bye.
Francis,
Good seeing everybody.
You too.
Francis, do you have a moment?
Hi, folks.
Yeah, do you want to call me?
I'm gonna forward you an email to see if we can send it out to the network related to the anti-Asian hate crimes that are going on. It's a sign-on letter. We're asking, for support to send it out to other organizations to sign on to something like this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
How do I turn this thing off?
End meeting.
Oh, I found it. All right. Ahora sí. No.